Hey there, English literature enthusiast. Welcome back to the channel. So, if you're guys preparing for the UGC Net English literature exam or you are just passionate about the literature subject, then today's video is going to be for you. So, we are going to explore some iconic opening lines from some major works that frequently appear in the exam. So, without much delay, let's dive into these lines and see how they can help with your exam preparation, and it will also help you to secure some good marks. So, let's start our video with the first opening line of the Canterbury Tales, that is by Geoffrey Chaucer. So, the opening line was, "What than April with its sour suit?" So I'm going to tell a little bit about each opening line, what's the significance behind it, so that you will remember it for the longer period of time. So this opening line marks the beginning of the Middle English literature and introduces the themes of pilgrimage and renewal. The second opening line was from Hamlet, that is, "Who is there?" So it sets the tone of the mystery, uncertainty, and identity that is reflecting in the play Hamlet's themes. The third one was of man's first disobedience and the fruit, from Paradise Lost by John Milton. So this line establishes the theme of the fall of man and Milton's ambition to justify the ways of God to men. The next line was one of the most asked and most famous questions that was often asked by NTM. That is, "It is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in a want of a wife." So this opening line was from Pride and Prejudice, written by Jane Austen. So this highlights the themes of marriage, wealth, and social dynamics with irony and wit. Please remember, I'm saying all the opening lines from all the major works. So remember, if you haven't looked at the summary, or if you have not gone through the text, please go through it once if you have time before your exam. But please make sure to go through these major works, and you'll automatically remember the opening lines and its significance behind it if you go through the text once. So the next line was also a famous opening line, that is from A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens, and the opening line was, "It was the best of times and it was the worst of times." So this opening line captures the contradiction of the French Revolution era that sets the novel's tone. The next one was from The Wasteland by T.S. Eliot, and the opening line of The Wasteland was, "April is the cruelest month, breeding lilacs out of the dead land." So it challenges the traditional poetic conventions, and it also introduces some modernist themes, as T.S. Eliot was a modernist writer. The next opening line was from Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf. So the opening line from Mrs. Dalloway was, "Mrs. Dalloway said she would buy the flower herself." So it immediately immerses the readers into the stream of conscious narratives for which Virginia Woolf is most famous. The next line was from Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, and the opening line of Wuthering Heights was, "1801. I have just returned from a visit to my landlord, the solitary neighbor that I shall be troubled with." So this is a gothic kind of novel, and it says this opening line sets the stage for the themes of isolation and foreboding, for which the Wuthering Heights was most famous for. The next one was by James Joyce from his work A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man. So the opening line was, "Once upon a time, and a very good time it was, there was a cow coming down along the road." So this opening line highlights the novel's experimental narrative and the childhood perspective of the protagonist of the A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man. Next, we have one of the most famous opening line again, that is "Call Me Isabel," which was the opening line of Moby Dick, written by Herman Melville. So, this opening line establishes the mysterious and introspective tone of the narrative. The next opening line was, "It was a bright, cold day in April and the clocks were striking 13." And this opening line was from 1984, written by George Orwell. So, this opening line introduces a dystopian world with a sense of unease and irony. The next opening line was, "5 years have passed, 5 summers, with the length of 5 long winters." And this line was from lines composed a few miles above Tinton Abbey, a most famous poem composed by William Wordsworth. The next, let's move forward and learn the opening line of Waiting for Godot, which was "Nothing to be done." And this famous absurd play was written by Samuel Beckett. So, as we know that Waiting for Godot is an absurd play, so this opening line captures the absurdity and existential themes of the play, and it leads us to the absurd situation that we came across in the play. The next one was by D.H. Lawrence from his work Sons and Lovers. So the opening line of Sons and Lovers was, "The bottom end of the valley was smoky with coal pits, and the village with its scurfy little school, its sordid church, was clotted on the hillside." So this opening line highlights the industrial England and introduces us to the setting of class and relationship. Next, there is an opening line from Toni Morrison's Beloved. So the opening line was, "1 to 4 was spiteful, full of a baby's venom." So this opening line establishes the haunting tone and themes of the memory and trauma. Please remember, I forgot to write it here. This was one of the most famous opening line of Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad, that is the Nelly, a cruising yawl, song to her anchor without a flutter of the sails, and watch at rest. So this was the opening lines from Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad, and this opening line says the mysterious dark tone of colonial exploration. I have forgotten to mention it here, but please remember this opening line from Heart of Darkness. Now let's move forward to our video. The next line, that is from Tales of the Overwilds by Thomas Hardy, and the opening line of his work was, "On an evening in the latter part of May, a middle-aged man was walking homeward from Saston to the village of Marlott in the adjoining vale of Blackmore or Blackmore." So this line of Tales introduces the themes of faith and rural life. Next, we have Jane Eyre's Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre's most famous opening line that was often asked in the exams. So there was no possibility of taking a walk that day. So this opening line marks the starting of the novel of Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre. So this establishes the mood of isolation and foreshadows the heroine's struggles that we are going to face in the novel Jane Eyre. Next, we have George Eliot's Middlemarch's opening line, that is, "Miss Brooke had that kind of beauty which seems to be thrown into relief by poor Grace." So this opening line reflects the themes of social expectations and personal aspirations. Next, we have John Keats' Endymion, that is a ode written by John Keats. So the opening line of this ode, Endymion, is, "A thing of beauty is a joy forever." Please note that this line was asked in every kind of SAT exam, GATE exam, and TGT exam, PGT exam. They ask this question, and in NET also we get this question many times. So please remember John Keats' every poem. Read John Keats' every poem, and please remember the opening lines or the most famous lines from his poems. So the opening line of John Keats' Endymion was, "A thing of beauty is a joy forever," and this line celebrates the romantic ideals of beauty and imagination. So next we have P.B. Shelley's Ozymandias, and this opening line from Ozymandias was, "I met a traveller from an antique land." So this line introduces the theme of impermanence and power that we are going to find as the theme of Ozymandias. Next, we have the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock, a most famous poem or dramatic monologue written by T.S. Eliot. And the opening line was, let us go then, you and I, when the evening is spread out against the sky. So this opening line sets a tone of hesitation and modernist introspection that we can see or will find in the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock by T.S. Eliot. Next we have I Heard a Fly Buzz When I Died, a poem written by Emily Dickinson. So, and the opening line of this poem was I heard a fly buzz when I died. So, this poem is all about the exploration of death and mundane in her unique poetic voice that Emily Dickinson provided. So, this is the opening line of Emily Dickinson's poem, I Heard a Fly Was When I Died. Next, we have Robert Frost, The Road Not Taken, a most famous poem or much loved poem by all the school students and the literature lovers. And the opening lines was two roads diverged into a yellow wood. And this is the opening line of Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. So this opening line symbolizes the choices and their consequence in life, which was the theme of the Road Not Taken. Next we have William Blake's The Tiger, and the opening line of Tiger was Tiger, Tiger burning bright in the forest of the night. So the significance of the opening line that it examines the duality of the creation and the destruction. And this the tiger poem was from his anthology or from his title of the poem Songs of Experience, and he has written exactly opposite, that is Song of Innocence, and that's why it examines the duality of the creation and the destruction. Next, we have Henry Fielding's Tom Jones, and the opening line of Tom Jones was an author ought to consider himself not as a gentleman who gives a private or eleemosynary treat, but rather as one who keeps a public ordinary. And this opening line introduces us to the satirical tone of the whole novel Tom Jones. Next, we have Daniel Defoe's Robinson Crusoe, and the opening line of Robinson Crusoe was, "I was born in the year 1632 in the city of New York, of a good family, though not of that country. My father being a foreigner of Bremen, who settled first at Hull." So this opening line establishes the autobiographical tone of the novel. So these are the most major works. Maybe not all these questions were not asked. Not all these opening lines were asked in the exam, but we don't have. We must know about these opening lines because NTA can ask anything. So it's better to know about all major works opening line. Now let's move forward and learn the Gulliver Travels written by Jonathan Swift's opening line. So the opening line of Gulliver's Travel was, "My father had a small estate in Nottingsmire and I was the third of 5 sons." So this opening line introduces us to the satirical travel narrative written by Jonathan Swift, which you'll find in his work Gulliver Travels. So next we have Oscar Wilde's the most famous novel, that is The Picture of Dorian Gray. This novel was my personal favorite. Please read it if you have time. It will teach you so many things about the life. So the opening line was, "The studio was filled with the rich odor of roses, and when the light summer wind stirred amidst the trees of the garden, there came through the open door the heavy scent of the lilac or the more delicate perfume of the pink flowering thorn." So this line reflects the sensory richness and decadence central to the novel. Next, we have Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, and this was one of the major work of Aldous Huxley. So I have provided the opening line of this work, though it was not asked in the exam before, but please remember it. It may be asked. It can be asked in the exam. So the opening line of Brave New World was a squat grey building of only 34 stories. Over the main entrance, the words Central London Hatchery and Conditioning Centre, and in a shield, the Wall Street's motto, community, identity, and stability. So this sets the dystopian tone of the novel, because Brave New World is the dystopian novel written by Aldous Huxley. Now let's move forward and learn some modern poetry, because these works often come up in the UGC NET exam, and knowing their opening lines can give you an insight into the theme and tone of the poem. So first was the most famous modernist writer, W.B. Yeats, and his work The Second Coming. So the opening line was turning and turning in the widening gyre. So this opening lines evokes the image of the world spiraling out of control, a powerful reflection of its modernist themes that we often see in his works. Next, we have Sylvia Plath's Daddy. It was a poem written by Sylvia Plath, and Sylvia Plath was a conventional poet, and this poem was a confessional poem. You do not do, you do not do. So this is the opening line of Daddy, and this was Plath's bold confession, reflects the themes of anger, trauma, and struggle for the identity. And whenever you read the poem Daddy, you will find that how Sylvia Plath has laid bare herself in front of her readers. Please read this poem if you haven't read it yet. Next, we have Dylan Thomas' most famous poem, that is Do Not Go Gentle into That Good Night. So the opening line was also the same as the name of the title of the poem, that is Do Not Go Gentle into That Good Night by Dylan Thomas. So this was an emotional play to resist the death, and this line embodies the Thomas call for strength and defiance in the face of mortality. Now let's move to drama, that is another crucial section of your exam preparation. So the opening lines from plays that often set the stage for the conflict and themes that lay unfold. So the first drama was from Christopher Marlowe's Dr. Faustus, that is Not Marching Now in Fields of Thrasimen, where Mars did not meet the Carthaginians. So here Marlowe's this opening line suggests that Marlowe's Faustus begins with a sense of historical reflection, that setting up the themes of ambition and hobbies. Next, we have Ben Jonson's Volpone, that is a comedy written by Ben Jonson. So the opening line of Volpone, that is Good morning to the day and next my gold. So this opening line immediately introduces us to Volpone's obsession with wealth, which drives the entire play's plot. Next, we have Samuel Beckett's Endgame, and the opening line of Endgame was finished, it's finished, nearly finished, it must be nearly finished. So this was an absurdist play written by Samuel Beckett. So Beckett's minimalist opening line encapsulates the absurdist existentialism at the heart of the play. Now let's focus on the fiction. So whether it's a modernist or post-colonial, the opening lines of novels often offer some crucial clues about the novel's theme. So learning about it is most important. First, we have Virginia Woolf's To the Lighthouse. So yes, the opening line was To the Lighthouse was, yes, of course, if it's fine tomorrow, said by Mrs. Ramsay. So here the opening line of To the Lighthouse immediately introduces us to the stream of consciousness style and hints at the novel's exploration of time and perception. Next, we have E.M. Forster's A Passage to India. So the opening line of A Passage to India was except for the Marbar Caves, and they are 20 miles off the city of Chandrapur, presenting nothing extraordinary. So this opening line shows us Foster's line, which subtly foreshadows the profound cultural division and tension that will save the novel. Next, we have Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man, and the opening line of Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man was, "I am an invisible man." So, the setting behind or the significance behind the opening line of Invisible Man, that is, "I am an invisible man," was Ellison's track opening line begins a journey into racial invisibility, identity, and the struggles of African Americans. Now, let's move forward and learn something about the non-fiction and the essays. So, if we talk about John Ruskin's Sesame and Lilies, the opening line of Sesame and Lilies was, "The first duty of a state is to see that every child born therein shall be well housed, clothed, fed, and educated till it attain the years of discretion." So, as we know, John Ruskin's every work provides us some deeper insights or some evaluational themes that he always focuses. So this line introduces us to the world of John Ruskin. Next, we have Virginia Woolf's A Room of One's Own, and the opening line of A Room of One's Own was, "But you may say we asked you to speak about women and fiction. What has that got to do with a room of one's own?" So this line by Virginia Woolf, in A Room of One's Own, that is the opening line, suggests us what Virginia Woolf has told us in A Room of One's Own. Now, let's shift to critical theory. To understand these key lines can give you some insight into the evolving thoughts on literature and society. So, the first opening line was from The Function of Criticism at the Present Time by Matthew Arnold, and the opening line was, "Many objections have been made to proposition which, simple as it seems, I ventured to make it an essay on the study of poetry." So this opening line from Matthew Arnold's work, that is The Function of Criticism at the Present Time, suggests us that Arnold's line sets up his defense of criticism as an essential function for understanding the literature in its actual time. Next, we have Terry Eagleton's Literary Theory and Introduction. So, the opening line of his work, Literary Theory and Introduction, the opening line was, "What is literature?" So, here Eagleton starts with the most fundamental question to invite the readers to question the boundaries and definition of what constitute the literature. So, next we have Ferdinand de Saussure's course in general linguistics, and the opening line of this work, "A science that studies the life of science within society is convincible. I shall call it semiology." So here, this opening line suggests us that Saussure's introduction to the semiology revolutionized how we approach the study of language and its meaning. Now let's focus on some Indian writing in English, some of the major works. Let's focus on some of the major works and the opening lines of these major works. So the first was Raja Rao's Kanthapura, and the opening line of the Kanthapura was, "Our village, I don't think you have ever heard about it, Kanthapura. Is its name." So it reflects the narrative style of oral tradition and the themes of independence in the novel Kanthapura. The next one was by Arundhati Roy's The God of Small Things, and the opening line of The God of Small Things was, "May in Amenem is a hot brooding month." So this opening line sets the tone for the story's themes of memory and trauma. Next we have Swami and Friends, a most famous novel by R.K. Narayan, and the opening line of this novel was, "It was Monday morning and Swaminathan was reluctant to open his eyes." So this opening line reflects the innocence and the colonial era of the childhood life. Next, let's move to world literature and some of the most major lines, key opening lines from world literature. And these lines helps you to establish some cultural context and narrative styles. So the first major line was Gabriel Garcia Marquez's 100 Years of Solitude. So the opening line of this work was many years later, as he faced the firing squad, Colonel Oronilo Bundia was to remember the distant afternoon when his father took him to discover ice. So this opening line blends some magical realism with the cyclical nature of time. That is the key theme presented in this novel. Next, we have Franz Kafka's The Metamorphosis. So, the opening line of The Metamorphosis, written by Franz Kafka, was Gregor Samsa awoke one morning from uneasy dreams. He found himself transformed in his bed into a gigantic insect. So here Kafka's surreal opening line says the stage for existential exploration and alienation. Next, we have Albert Camus' The Stranger. And the opening line of Albert Camus' Stranger, that mother died today or maybe yesterday, I cannot be sure. So, as we know, Albert Camus was was the writer of existentialism. He focuses the existentialism in his every work. So the opening line of The Stranger shows us or captures the existential abstractism that is the key theme in Albert Camus' every work. So that's it for today. I hope this video is going to help you immensely, as these opening lines are not just memorable, they offer the windows into the heart of each work. And not just this, by familiarizing yourself with these lines, you'll better understand the themes and the characters that make this work timeless. And I have already made a similar kind of video on some famous line from some famous works of literature, and I have already posted that video on YouTube. I'll be providing you the link of that video in the description below. Please go and check that video if you all haven't checked it yet. I'm sure this video and the other video that I have already made and posted on YouTube was going to definitely help you in your revision time. And for all those who are preparing for this exam or any kind of literature exam, these two video are going to help you immensely in your revision as well as your longer period, as well it will keep you updated, and it will help you to memorize every word for the longer period of time. So if you all like today's video, please do not forget to like, share and subscribe, and please follow me for more insights and tips for your UGC net preparation. So for that, you will have to subscribe to my channel, so please subscribe to the channel. And